Hi everyone, Tom Wolf here. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create this expressive key style preset in Arturia Pigments. Okay, so as you can hear, we've got this really kind of delicate ambient key style preset. And the thing that we really want to focus on is the kind of the expressiveness of this preset. So if you think about a piano, so when you hit a piano key, if you hit it softly, you get quite a soft, delicate note. Whereas if you hit it quite hard, you get a really loud, quite aggressive sound. And that's what we want to create in a key style patch. We want to have that kind of velocity sensitivity that makes playing it very expressive. So this preset that we're going to be looking at is called Harmonically Speaking, and it's from my set Hyalus for Arturia Pigments. So let's have a look at how I created it. Okay, so I've taken the preset apart and we're going to start with our wavetable. So we're only going to be using one engine in this preset, and the wavetable that we're using is one called Twilight. Okay, now this is taken from my set Hyalus. So if you don't have a copy of Hyalus, you're not going to be able to create this preset exactly as it is. But as I've always said with these tutorials, I'm not necessarily creating them so that you can replicate the preset exactly. What I want you to do is to kind of think about how you can use the different parts of the preset to create your own presets. And one of the big things that's going to play a part in that is the sound sources. So have a look through the Pigments wavetable library. There's loads of really kind of delicate wavetables in here, particularly in the kind of, there's a few natural ones, they're quite delicate, and in the building waves, especially the additive ones, they could also do really well for this. So have a play about with different wavetables and see what results you get. For this tutorial though, we're going to be using this wavetable. So on its own, it sounds like this. So it's quite delicate, but it's quite bright as well. We'll look at the envelope here. So we've got envelope VCA. Because it is a key style patch, we want it to be quite a short note. So we've got sustain set to all the way off, and we've got the decay set to just under 2 seconds. Okay, so you can hear it dying off there. It dies off over a period of time. We do want it to kind of get gradually softer. We don't want it to just, die off immediately like this. We do want it to sound at least a little bit kind of expressive. So the next thing is the position of the wavetable. So as you can see from the little blue line in here, this is where our actual position of playing is. So we set that with the position knob here. You can see it's set to 0.204. As I hover over that position knob, you'll see that my function 1 lights up there. So that means we've actually got a modulation happening here. So our wavetable position is being modulated by our function 1. So let's switch that on and go over to our function. So you can see that we've got this set to minus 0.2. So that means that when we hit the key, it's going to be going back to the start here. You can see that with the kind of colored ring around the control there. And you can see our function 1 here. So we've basically got a ramp that's happening here. And we've got it synced. So it's synced to a half note. And we've got it set to play once. So what that means is when we press a key, it plays once and then it stops, unlike loop mode, which would obviously repeat that cycle. So as you could hear there, we're just getting a little bit of morphing on our wavetable position, which doesn't sound very nice at the moment, but obviously the filters are going to come into that. So let's have a look at our filter 1. So we come over here and we'll switch that on, and you can see we've got filter 1 set to a multi-mode filter. It's set to low pass 24. We've got the cutoff set to 183 Hertz. We've got quite a bit of resonance here, just over a third of the way up on the resonance. And then we've got quite a lot of keyboard follow happening here as well. There we go. So now we've got an incredibly stunted version of the sound. But of course, we do want to modulate that. So what we've got is our cutoff here is being modulated by envelope 2. So you can come over to envelope 2 and switch on that modulation, which you can now see we're actually opening the cutoff when we press the key down. So that gives us a kind of woody sort of sound at the start there. So it's just giving us a nice kind of gentle attack to that sound. And as I say, giving it a kind of wood kind of quality to it. The envelope that's controlling this is envelope 2. So you can see here, again, we've got no sustain. We've got a relatively long decay. It's actually a little bit shorter than the decay on our amplitude because we want it to die off quite a bit quicker than our actual amplitude. So that's what's giving us the sort of clicky attack at the start there, okay? So now this is where our expressiveness comes into play. So we're actually going to be controlling our filter with our velocity as well. So let's come over to our velocity, which is over here. And this is where we set up modulations for velocity control. So you can see we've got two things that are set up on here. We've got the envelope 2 decay time, which we'll switch that on, and the filter 1 cutoff. So let's just work with one of those for the moment. So we'll look at our envelope 2 decay time. So we've just looked at our second envelope, which is controlling the filter up here. So when we play this preset with a heavier velocity, you can see that we're going to actually get a slightly longer decay time. So let's show you that. So you can hear the heavier I play that key, the longer the note is kind of dragged out. And that's because we're losing some of that kind of clicky attack that we've got on the softer velocities. And it's just kind of bringing it out and making the note slightly brighter and slightly longer. Then we've also got our filter 1 cutoff. So we're actually also directly controlling the cutoff here as well. So that means that the filter is going to open the heavier that we actually play this. So as well as kind of elongating the sound, it's going to be slightly brighter when we play it heavier and slightly duller when we play it softly. So you can see now we've created that expressiveness, all right? So if we play it, so now it's a lot more like a kind of keyboard, a lot more like a piano. It's a lot more playable. You can get a lot more kind of expression into it, a lot more emotion into your playing as well. So the idea is that this plays like a real instrument and that we actually have a lot of expression that goes into it. So that's actually it for the actual key sound itself. So let's have a look at the effects. So we're going to come over here and I'm going to switch on my effects bus A and let's switch on our reverb. So we've now got a gigantic, washy, ambient reverb. Okay, so we've got the dry-wet mix to 45%. We've got the decay almost all the way up, which is what's giving us this really long, washy reverb. The size is set to 1. We've got quite a long pre-delay on here because we wanted it to just kind of bounce off the note almost. Which you can hear there. We've got the damping set to 600 and we've got a little bit of low pass and high pass filtering going on here. So the reverb really helps with the kind of expressiveness of the preset because although they're quite subtle changes that are being controlled by the velocity, especially when you've got such a big reverb, it really kind of accentuates it. So it's really kind of bringing that expression out of the preset. We'll then also look at our send bus. So on here, we've actually got a delay that's happening, okay? At the moment, I've got it turned all the way down, but let's start turning this on. So let's give that a little bit of volume. So to start off with, we've got a distortion, okay? So the distortion, the drive is set to 25.3 dB. So you can see when we press a key, we're actually getting that drive there. Okay, you'll also notice that we've got our output gain turned really far down, so we're not actually getting a lot of this effect, because if we turn that up, get a really loud sound, really accentuates it. So that's turned all the way down. Then we've got a delay. So let's switch on the delay. We've got it set to 100% wet as well. We've got it set to quarter notes, and we've got quite a long feedback here as well. We've not got ping pong or any stereo spread happening, and we've got it a little bit high pass filtered just to remove some of the low end. Okay, and then we've also got a bit of reverb that's happening on this delay as well. So we've got the dry wet set to 33%, so we are still getting some of that dry signal through. And again, we've got the decay set to very high. It's very similar to the actual reverb that is, you know, on the preset itself, not the delay, but the actual, you know, drier preset. So yeah, this is just adding a little bit of reverb to that delay. Okay, so the next thing is going to be our mod wheel. So if we come over to our mod wheel, you see we've got the mod wheel controlling FX4 mod 1. So we'll switch that on. So FX4, that's this one here. So we're controlling a multi-filter. So we've got the multi-filter set to low pass 24, and you can see we've normally got it set to completely open, but what our mod wheel is doing is closing that cutoff there. Now, note that this is only happening on our you know, I want to call it our dry signal. It's not dry because we've got a lot of reverb on there, but it's our signal that is not going through the delay. Okay, so let's hear what that does. So we get that really kind of deep, dark sound on that key, especially the reverb, because it's happening after that reverb. But it's leaving our delay send unfiltered, so we're still getting that bright kind of delay and the reverb on that as well, which just has a really nice kind of effect to it. So then to finish this preset off, we'll have a look at our macros, okay? So we'll come back over to the synth, and on macro 1, you can see we're controlling the FM. So come to macro 1, we've got wavetable 1 FM amount. Switch that on, and you can see this is our FM amount here. So without turning the macro on, we've just got the normal sound. And then when we switch that on, we get that kind of twangy FM feel to it. Also got to note as well, so the modulator is set to -12 semitones, so the actual FM is kind of, that's why it's making it a little bit deeper than the actual patch, because the FM modulator is actually set to an octave below our actual wavetable. So that adds quite a nice effect to it. So then we can look at our Bitcrusher, okay? So that's on macro 2. If we come over to macro 2, you can see we can't actually switch it on from here. Now, I don't think we've actually looked at this function in any of the Pigments tutorials that I've done so far. So we'll have a look at this. So side chaining is a way that you can use a certain modulation to control another one. So this is actually being controlled by our VCA. So firstly, we need to switch on our Bitcrusher, which is over here. So we'll switch that on, and you can see at the moment we've got our dry wet set to 0%. Our downsample is set to 9.96 times, and our bit depth is set to just under 10. Okay, so you can see on our envelope VCA, we've got one that we've not switched on yet, which is our FX dry wet mix, which of course is our Bitcrusher here. So we can switch that on, and we've got it set to 1. So that means it's going to turn the dry wet mix up to 100% wet. But you can also see this bit here, which says macro 2. So this is our sidechain. And what that means basically is that we can assign any modulator to actually control this modulation here. So if I didn't have the macro set, in fact, if we turn it down to, let's put it to 0. So if I play that now, our Bitcrusher is going to be on all the time. So the reason why we're actually controlling this with the VCA is if we actually turn this up to 100% wet, you can hear the end of the note, is that quite kind of like ugly drop that I didn't really want. So I thought I'd control it with a envelope so that we're not getting that at the end of the sound as our key decays. So it nicely gets rid of that. But of course we didn't want it to be on all the time. So that's why we're controlling it with a sidechain from our macro 2. So if we turn that all the way on to 1, now obviously when we play it, we're not going to hear it until we turn our macro up. Okay, so that's a very quick introduction to sidechaining, and if you're not sure how to use it, have a look in the Pigments manual. It's something that I can go into depth more in a later tutorial, but it's a very useful function of Pigments. So on macro 3, you can see that we've got it labeled comb. So if we come over to macro 3, what we're controlling is our filter routing. So we'll switch that on and we'll come back to our synth. So our filter routing is this control here. For the main sound in the preset, we've got it set to being in series. So what that means, because we've got our actual engine 1 filter mix set all the way to filter 1, the sound is going to be coming out of engine 1 into our filter 1 and then to our effects section. So by controlling the filter routing with our macro, what we're actually doing when we turn our macro up is we're actually moving it from series mode to parallel mode, which essentially means that what it's going to do is sound is going to go from engine 1 into filter 1, then into filter 2 to go into our effects. Okay, so now filter 2 is going to be at play where it wasn't before. So we'll switch filter 2 on and you can see we've got filter 2 set to a comb. We've got the frequency set to quite high. We've got it set to feedback mode, and we've got a little bit of keyboard follow happening here as well. So now we can hear, we get that kind of bright comb sound when our macro's up. It's just adding a little kind of edge to it. Which gives it a nice kind of quality actually. It kind of just helps the attack a little bit. Makes it a little bit more kind of glassy as well. And then last but not least, we've got our phaser on macro 4. So over in our effects, switch on our phaser. And then we'll switch on the mod as well. So as you can see, it's controlling the dry wet. So all we have to do is turn this on to 100%, put that up. We've got the actual phaser itself synced across a 4-bar loop. We've got the frequency set to 241. We've got the feedback quite high, normal triangle LFO wave and LFO amount up to 282. And then we've got a number of poles set to 8 as well. So now when we play it, we're going to be getting that nice phasey effect. Okay, so that is the whole preset. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you found the tutorial useful. And as I say, make sure that you're sort of playing about with the different settings in this. When you've kind of created it as it was intended to be, you can learn a lot about sound design by just changing certain things. So that could be the actual waveform itself, or the wavetable there. It could be the type of filter. It could be some of the actual modulations. It could be the envelopes. It could be the types of effects. It could be anything like that. Make sure you're kind of playing about with it and experimenting, because that is how you're going to kind of learn what each part of the synth is actually doing to create the certain sound. Okay, if you like this tutorial, please do use the link in the description below to sign up to receive them to your inbox. Whenever I put a new tutorial online, you'll get it straight to your inbox, so you won't miss it, and it will really kind of help you up your sound design game and learn more about sound design. So until the next one, take care.